Please welcome Joanna Maddox.
Good morning. I am so overjoyed to be with you this morning on this fine day. I would like to thank the pastor for inviting me this morning to share my life with you. My name is Rosa Parks. I was born on February 4th, 1913. Which was a long time ago. I was named after my dear Grandma Rose, and my baby brother Sylvester was named after my grandfather. My father, James McCauley, was a carpenter. He liked to build houses and things like that, and he traveled quite a bit. By the time I was 5 years old, he had left the family never to return. My mother, Leona McCauley, was a school teacher, and the things she taught me helped me to feel good about myself, even though I was treated poorly because of the color of my skin. One thing my mother taught my brother and I, she would say that you should not judge people by the amount of money they have, the kind of clothes they wear, or the home they live in. She taught us that you should judge people by the amount of respect they have for themselves and for others. And I'd like to just take a moment and thank you all for being so respectful of me today. When my father left the family, we moved in with my grandparents. My grandma Rose was a strong woman. I believe she passed the strength down to me. And my grandfather, Sylvester, was a proud man. He would look white people right in the eye. Wasn't supposed to do that back in those days. When my father left, we moved in with them. I liked living with them. They owned their own land. They had a vegetable garden out back, and they raised animals. And their favorite thing to do when they weren't working was to go fishing on Saturday. I loved to tag along with them. I think when they got a little elderly, they couldn't see too good, because we would get down to the river, and when it come time to bait the hook, my grandfather would tell my grandma Rose, "Go on, Rose, you do it." And she would tell him, "No, Sylvester, you do it." When it came time to put that little squiggly worm on the hook, guess whose job that was? It was my job, but I didn't mind at all. My grandparents were, well, how do you young people say? They were cool. I enjoyed spending my time with them. One thing about growing up, my grandfather was proud, and I enjoyed living with them, but things were a lot different than they are now. Back when I was a little girl, segregation was the law of the South. Those segregation laws meant that colored and white people had to stay apart wherever they went. Buses, streetcars, parks, and theaters. Colored and white children could not play together or go to school together. And sometimes my mother would, well, I grew up in Pine Level, Alabama, but sometimes she'd take us to the big city of Montgomery, Alabama. And there in Montgomery, they even had separate water fountains. One water fountain had a sign on it that said, "For whites only." The other water fountain had a sign that said, "For coloreds." But when I was a little bitty girl, and when I saw the sign on the water fountain for the first time, I used to wonder if the white water tastes different from the colored water. And when I grew up, I realized the water was the same. It had the same taste and the same color. The only difference was the sign. Now, children, my young ones back here, I didn't grow up during slavery times, but I had to work. All the children had to work out in the field. I had a flour sack slung over my shoulder. I walked up and down the rows picking the cotton and putting it in my sack. Now, cotton didn't grow but so high, so you had to stoop over to get the cotton. Stick of burrs down at the bottom of the plant, prick your fingers, make your fingers bleed. We would work all day in the hot sun picking cotton. We had a saying that we worked from can to can. Anybody here know what that saying means? That meant you worked from the time you could see the sun in the sky till you couldn't. We worked from sun up to sundown. And do you know when we were out there working in the fields, we didn't wear shoes? We didn't have any. Nobody wore shoes but the house and the boss. My brother and I went to school. We went to the school for colored children. It was a small building, no nice windows like these. All the grades were in that one room. The white children got to go to a much larger school, and they got to ride on a school bus, but there was no bus for my brother and I. We had to walk miles to get to school. Sometimes when we were walking to school, the school bus with the white children on it would drive by us. The children would laugh at us and throw trash out the window at us. There was nothing we could do about it. But when my brother and I would hear that bus coming up the road behind us, we would leave the road and walk along the edge of the woods until the bus went by. I finished my schooling. I had an opportunity to go to a private school for colored girls, but only for a short time. Our teacher was from up north, a white lady, but this was not allowed because of segregation laws. The school was shut down, and she was run out of town. When I was 19 years old, before then, my dear mother became ill. So I left school to help take care of her. And then my grandmother became ill, and I stayed from school to help her. But when I was 19 years old, that's when I married my sweetheart. His name was Raymond Parks. Raymond was a barber. Oh, he would cut young fellas' hair and make them look so much better. He worked with lawyers who would try to end some of the unfair treatment of colored people, although they were not always successful. And in the 1940s, I joined the NAACP, and I served as their secretary for a number of years. Now, I know that everyone here today has heard of me before. They started calling me the mother of the civil rights movement. There were countless people involved in that movement, colored and white people. What I'd like to do today, if I could have a little more time, I would like to share with you my involvement in that movement. Back in those days, the only place we could go to have our meetings was the church. That's the only place where a large group of colored people could meet. So that's where we had our meetings, in the church. We would get to singing and praising like you've done today. Seemed like that gave me strength to do the things that we had to do. Now, I want to take you back, if you don't mind, leaving the year 2017. Come on back with Miss Rosa. I want to take you all the way back to the 1950s. During this time, most colored people did not own cars. We took the bus to get where we needed to go. And on the Montgomery bus, there was 36 seats on the Montgomery. Thank you, young man. Got some fine young men here today. Thank you. Give him a hand. On the Montgomery bus, there was 36 seats. These first 10 seats in the front, this was the white section. Colored people could not sit here, even if there were no white people on the bus. 10 seats in the back was the colored section. The bus driver could arrange these 16 seats in the middle any way he wanted. But a colored person could not sit next to a white person or across the row from a white person. If a colored person got on the bus and took a seat, white person got on and there was no seat for the white person, the bus driver would demand that the colored person give up the seat, go and stand in the back of the bus. That's the way we rode the buses back then. Because of what laws? Segregation laws. I didn't think those laws were fair. The way we entered the bus was different. Well, everybody would enter the bus through the front door. You would pay your fare to the bus driver. All the bus drivers were white men. Colored people couldn't have that type of job back then. All the colored people would pay their fare to the bus driver. Then you had to get off the bus, walk all the way around to the back side door and enter the bus through the side door. Do you know sometimes the bus driver would drive off and leave you before you had enough time to make it to the back of the bus? I am sure that all of you heard about the time when I was arrested for not giving up my seat. But most people do not know that I had a run-in with the same bus driver that had me arrested. This happened 12 years earlier. And I would like to share with you what happened to me on that day. I had gotten off from work. I was a seamstress at a department store, and I was pretty good. I don't mean to brag, but I was good at my work. As I was walking toward the bus, I could see there was a crowd of colored people waiting at the back door to get on the bus. So I entered the bus through the front door and, excuse me, please, I paid my fare to the bus driver. Instead of getting off the bus and walking all the way around to the back door where all those people were waiting, I just made my way to the back of the bus. And I took a seat. The bus driver came over to me and he said, "Get off this bus. You need to go around and get on through the back door like you're supposed to." Well, I told him I was already on the bus. I didn't see no reason why I should get off the bus and on again. I was already on the bus. He told me if I can't get on the way I was supposed to, I would have to get off. And he took me by my coat sleeve and led me to the front of the bus. Bus drivers carried guns to enforce those segregation laws. He didn't take his gun out at me because I did not resist. I just walked quietly behind him. When I got to the very front of that bus, I dropped my purse. I did not bend over or stoop down to pick up my purse. I sat down in the white section. And I picked up my purse. The Bus driver came over to me and he said, "Get off this bus now." And he looked like he was going to hit me. I told him, "I will get off, but you better not hit me." Well, I got off the bus. But I did not walk around and enter through the back door. I just waited for the next bus. And believe me, I never wanted to ride on that mean bus driver's bus again. Every time before I would get on the bus, I would look and see who the bus driver was. But I will never forget the day. December 1st, 1955. I guess I forgot to look first. By the time I paid my fare, I realized it was the same bus driver. I'd already paid my money, so I walked around through the back door and I entered the bus. And I took a seat in the middle section. The bus made several stops. It made stop after stop, and more people got on. Pretty soon, the bus was completely full. Bus driver made one more stop. A white man got on, but there was no seat for him. The bus driver turned around and looked at us colored people sitting down, and he said, "Let me have those seats." Well, I knew what he meant by that. He wanted us colored people to get up and give the white man our seat. And at first, none of us moved. And the bus driver said, "Y'all better make it light on yourselves and let me have those seats." Well, I didn't see how standing up would make it light on myself. But the man sitting next to me stood up, and the woman across the row stood up. But I didn't move. I stayed in my seat. As I sat there that day, I started thinking about the time when I was a little girl. I wake up in the middle of the night and see my grandpa Sylvester sitting by the side of the fireplace with his shotgun right beside him, ready for the KKK or whoever coming our home to harm us. Some nights, Mama have us go to bed with all our clothes on, in case we have to leave our house in the middle of the night. As I sat there that day, I felt like I had the strength of my ancestors with me. I had no idea that history was being made. And I can't tell you how it got started, but some people started saying that I didn't give up my seat that day because I was tired. I was not physically tired. I was only 42 years old when this happened to me. And 42 is not old. Only tired I was tired of being pushed around. Bus driver said if I didn't give up my seat, he would call the police. And he did. When the police came, one of the officers was a young man. And he asked me, "Why didn't you just give up your seat?" I asked that young white man, "Why do you push us colored people around?" He said, "I don't know, but the law is the law." And they took me to jail. They led me down a long corridor. The jail had a damp feeling to it, chilled me to my bones. They rolled my fingers on black ink and then on white cards. They were taking my fingerprint and they took my picture. They opened up the door to that jail cell and told me to get in. I walked into that jail cell and they slammed the door. I felt like I was all alone. I felt like I'd been deserted, but I didn't cry. I prayed. I prayed and I knew that God was right there with me in that jail cell, and somehow he would show me my next step. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. It's hard to take the next step when I don't know the way. Each turn is so uncertain. I learned to walk by faith. But you gave me a promise that you would never leave. You will lead and guide me. I'll follow all the way. Lead me, Lord. I will follow. Lead me, Lord. I will go. You have called me. I will answer. Lead me, Lord. I will go. I did not have to spend the night in that cold jail cell. Somebody on the bus called my husband Raymond, told him that I had been arrested, and they came to get me that very day. 3 days later, I had to go to court. The judge said that I was guilty of breaking those segregation laws. He fined me $10 plus $3 for court cost, but I never paid it. NAACP got involved. They called a meeting at a well-known church, and our speaker on that day at the church, so many people were there, everybody couldn't fit inside. Everybody wanted to hear this fine young man from Atlanta. They had to use a loudspeaker so the people outside could hear what Dr. Martin Luther King had to say. He said sometimes people get tired of being kicked around by the brutal feet of oppression. He told us to stay off the buses, and that's what we did. We didn't ride the buses. Winter rolled around, spring, summer, fall. We did not take the Montgomery bus. We got rides with our friends. We had a sophisticated system set up. 24 station wagons, 13 cars, and people were transported to work or wherever they needed to go. The churches in the area took up collections to raise money to buy the cars. Some white people donated money for those cars. But most white people were very upset about our boycott, and they tried to end it in a number of ways. One way was insurance. I wanted to tell you that before we were on our way, they tried to stop us. Every time the churches would get insurance for the cars, all of a sudden insurance would be canceled. Turned out that no insurance company in Montgomery would insure those cars. Dr. King called the insurance company in Atlanta, Georgia, and they called the insurance company in London, England. And that insurance company in London, England agreed to insure the cars in Montgomery, Alabama. Once we had the insurance, we were ready to roll. This was a difficult time for colored people. Sometime walking along to work, people were beaten, harassed. I lost my job at the department store. My brother was very concerned for my safety, so I moved to Detroit, Michigan, where my brother was. But Dr. King continued the fight, took our case all the way to the Supreme Court, And 375 days later, we ended our boycott because the Supreme Court declared that segregation on the Montgomery bus was wrong. Colored people no longer had to give up their seats. The laws continued to change over the years. The next 10 years, colored people were given the right to come and go as they please, the right to decent employment, the right to vote, the right to be treated as citizens. I'm so happy I played a part in this movement. I've traveled all over this country, talking to people just like yourselves. Before I leave you on this fine day, I would like to talk to my young people. I've always had a special place in my heart for them because they are the future of this country. So my young people, will you come and join Miss Parks, please? It would just bless my heart. Micaiah, Shania, where's this young man right here? Right here, come on, sweetie. Right here, precious. Come and stand with Miss Parks. Come on. Yes, my fine young men too. Oh, come on. Oh, you're looking so good in your Sunday best today. Give them a hand. Y'all just blessing me this morning. Make a straight line all the way across, please. All right, awesome. Now, when I was on that freedom trail with Dr. King, we always sang. I'd like to just dedicate this song to Dr. King. When we sang, children, we cross our arms over and we join our neighbors' hands for unity. Let's do that today. You guys, you join hands, you too. Cross your hands over like this. All right. And I know that everyone here knows this song, so just bless each other. And let's lift our voices and dedicate this to Dr. King. We shall overcome. We shall overcome. We Everyone just stand and join hands.